Bit about myself. Just like Josh said, I co-organized this. Been doing this for I think 2 odd years now. During the week, I work in automobile finance. And personally, best way to introduce myself, I'm a creative person, more in the enjoying creativity. I love to explore any sort of creativity at all, and how I basically experience creativity in my own way is through software. I enjoy systems, to be fair, and basically everything that goes with making them do my bidding, if you may say. Um, so today, what we are here about is Agentic framework, Microsoft Agent framework. This is an SDK for basically introduced by Microsoft in the .NET ecosystem that basically enables us implements agent to agent communication, basically orchestration or workflows for agentic applications. So basically, with one of these, you could be one of the people creating one of the fancy AI apps we see everywhere. Um, what's agent? So before we talk about orchestrations, etc., what orchestration is or why we need to orchestrate, I like to go through things from a perspective of a why. So I'll talk about like traditional software products where we have products that serve a purpose through very tightly bounded predetermined rules. So you have automations that say, do this, do that when condition A, B, and C are satisfied, or do this. But agents sort of like take a different approach through this, where you have not no rules, but rather less tightly bound rules. So you basically have there's still rules, there are still rules in the system, but they're less tightly bound to simulate a form of autonomy. Not autonomy in the sense of Jarvis or any supercomputer like that, but autonomy in the sense of we have accessible reasoning now, and that enables us to create applications without as tight rules as we normally need to be able to complete any business process. And you'd say LLMs amazing. Why everyone has access to LLMs now? Maybe I could create an application, a software product. I have LLMs. That's very easy. Whip them up, connect them to this, and I have a software product. Unfortunately, no. Accessible LLM does not a software product make. And why is that? I'll give a very simple example. The most popular one, ChatGPT. You go on there, you send messages, you think in real time, it learns about you, you're communicating, it takes context about what you're doing or your history, but no, it actually does not. The company behind that has context about what you're doing. The LLM doesn't learn about you in real time. You do have to coordinate other parts or other software systems to be able to enable any sort or any form of functionality. Same with long-lived processes where you have processes or business functions that start day one, they might end 2 years later, depending on whatever termination condition or whatever happens. But this can all be processed autonomously. I keep saying autonomously in quotes because there's no such thing as autonomy at the moment. But yeah, this can all be processed autonomously. As well as something that's important for any software product, monitoring. Loads of reasons why you don't want to monitor your application, even if you're not interested in how the application is working. You're interested in the resources that are being used. You're interested in what is failing. You're interested in who has access to what or not. And something that's way more important is security, because you lose money real quick for that, even if you don't lose money over monitoring. So yeah, diving into 1 second, I went too fast there. There we go. Diving into the new kid on the block, Microsoft Agents Framework. This is a library basically introduced by Microsoft. It was late 2025. Prior to that, we've had Semantic Kernel, which was basically an SDK that enabled you do LLM embedding in applications. So basically the whole LLM client communication, you're able to like do that in applications. It was just basically an abstraction over that. And it really works well, really nice. To the whole, couple of you might have heard of like MCP. I think they had tooling around all of that. So basically with semantic kernel, you can do a lot of that. I don't think there's going to be much support for this going forward, just because of the agent framework. And I also talk about AutoGen. This is a whole lot less popular than semantic kernel was. This is actually really based on research. If you've ever done any long string prompting with an LLM where you're almost going insane over, oh no, this is what we're talking about, this back and forth iteration. Or with AutoGen, you could actually have the LLMs drive each other crazy by giving in an input, creating very modular specific agents, or basically chats, LLMs that have specific context or instructions to be students, professionals, and have them interact over a question and arrive at a resolvable, acceptable result or solution for the user. And that's what AutoGen helps you do, which is actually pretty neat because it does a whole lot of like planning, reiteration, which is really nice. And then the new kid on the block who we are here for today, the Microsoft Agent Framework. This is a very nice set of tools, abstractions that enable a whole lot of things. So a whole lot of everything you've seen on this page and more. Monitoring, basically able to tack on to many things. You're able to tack on security as well because you're able to determine context or bounded scope between within which any agentic actions etc goes on to. So what I'll be going through today would be just some of the functionalities this library opens up, some of the options opens up to you. And I'll be starting with the first one, which is the structured output. And in my opinion, this is like the most important thing about this library. Helps this basically takes a whole lot of manual tacking on and orchestration into a few simple lines of code. So exit here and click on this real quick. I just want to show this. This is semantic kernel. This is trying to get a structured, or rather a contract between an agent where you get an input and you get an output. So any workflow, any system, it's input, output. Agents or LLMs, why are they very amazing for us? Because you go in free text and then you get output. But output is often free text, and free text input and free text output does not very good make for orchestration systems because you do need very strong contracts or boundaries between each of any services or any communication between services. So how did we solve that in semantic kernel? We did something very funny like this. You have to create very long, this is literally a literal string of a JSON representation of what the data structure should be. So this gets sent alongside your query or whatever input, and then gets deserialized into an object that should match the shape. You could imagine the hell it would be maintaining this maintaining this in any project whatsoever alongside any other project. Now let's compare that to this fella over here. Oh yeah. Let's take you out. I just want to highlight this line over here. Um, that's actually POCO, a plain object, and that's an agent message, and that's the output. And all I've had to do was have a generic API or generic method that goes, oh, I need my result in this output. No instructions going in with, oh, I need you to give me extra details, make sure the instructions come back in this output. What does that enable me to do? Whole lot of orchestration, get this out. I'm able to use the result to do any other loads of other things, and even pass that into the same agent with a different contract, although that might get very tricky because when you start giving instructions about you're an agent that does this and does that, the LLM becomes very confused about what it actually does. Hence the need for modularization. Second one, Unfortunately, the clicker wouldn't be working here. Agents with tools. So the very popular thing we had last year were MCPs, where it was so exciting. Where we're able to construct agents. We had reason, we have accessible reasoning, and we gave them capabilities. That's what autonomy is. Something has reasoning and it's able to perform actions out with both within the context of the system, outside the context of the system. And that's really amazing and also very dangerous because that's you saying, oh, you're a reasoning model, you're able to, you know you can do these things. Any contract, basically developing to contract, you know you can do these things. These are the function capabilities you have. These are what I'm trying to achieve. Determine how best to do this. I don't want to in real time try to determine the sequence or flow of sequence to achieve at a result, but you're trying to achieve this result. These are your capabilities. Do your best. Let us explore together at how best you achieve this. Not very good because you're going to reach a state where you're achieving a lot of things that are not what you want to achieve, or exhausting resources, or a whole lot of things that could go wrong with free will, because we really don't want free will. The reason we are software engineers is because we don't like free will, we like automation. So one of the things the library gives us is the ability to interface with tools with capabilities for agents. You're able to enable agents perform actions. So the entire MCP protocol becomes very easy as enabling an agent with tools, basically just giving the instructions or definitions of tools. So what does that do? It means with every single request or every single query you make to the LLM, alongside it is sent a deserialized or sorry, a serialized object of the capabilities, description, name, etc, contract, whatnot. What does the agent do? It's from the context of the context it has, create either inputs to satisfy performing those actions when it needs them or to achieve the goal. Again, this can get very tricky because you have a single agent that has access to, say, 100 tools to achieve a single thing, and then you have it trying to attempt actually making use of 50 of those or 20 of those to achieve same thing, or actually being stuck in a reiteration place where it's just trying to, oh, I have to try, I have to try, I have to try, even if it's failing, it keeps going until, yeah, you're in a very bad place. Also, something to keep mind of is token exhaustion, because very easily sending in that large schema with every request, LMs are not cheap, except you have a lot of money. Next thing this library opens up us to, yeah, oh yeah, expanding. Next thing this library opens us up to, it would be, let me open this first, would be agents as tools. So we already went through the part where agents have tools, but what if agents were also tools to other agents? What if we had a delegating or reasoning agent that decided, oh, just like we have AutoGen, where agents communicate with each other to arrive at a solution, it goes, oh, I do know experts on history, I know an expert in the weather, I know an expert in geography. And each of those agents could also have tools of their own or other agents that are tools of their own. So then you have a network basically of reasoning where with a delegating or a top root agent that says, I have access to this. Each root agent knows what they have access to. This, for one very important reason, reduces your token size for every request, because for every request that's sent, what is sent to the client or whatever LLM is a subset of the available tools or capabilities of whatever agent has been decided. For one reason, if no other thing, that's one very good reason that to use this particular API functionality. Really amazing. If there's no other reason, just reducing your token size is insane benefits. Last one would be the orchestration engine. So just like you have rule engines with workflows, you're able to decide the flow of this goes here in termination. Because of the structured output, again, one of the key building blocks of all this, you're able to decide the inflow, input, output contract, what each looks like, and where that part builds into or where that part leads into, you're able to go from A to B to C, basically design an entire workflow of orchestration, almost like a traditional software product, just with little points of reasoning where you decide direction loosely, not no decision at all, but literally decide directions loosely based on context. And in real time, you have options of paths to follow depending on output. Within that workflow, you're able to also add manual execution steps for any sort of like orchestration, not just LLM calls, because trying to run any business process through all directly through LLMs can go very wrong, very bad from experience, personal experience, very fast. Uh, Something else would be the multi-agent workflow orchestration. This is a very nifty set of tools. It lets you do agent-to-agent communication as well, but they are basically predefined communication routes where you're able to delegate the paths or the flow of the agent. So there's like the sequential one where every single agent in the pipeline have to go through a sequence to return to get to a result, or a parallel one where single agent has to take output to multiple agents at the same time, and those basically get converged at a different point, and then you get your output. Or a handoff one where you basically have tight rules as to who can hand off to who and who can basically where does input, what's the data flow, direction of data flow, very tightly you can decide. So this is no longer on a ad hoc basis where the agent decides I can go here or here. You basically say, oh, you only have access to this subset, and your response only goes back to this particular fella over here. And then there's the one of the most important one. I haven't gotten into work, to be honest, but that's like the sickest thing I've seen, as the magnetic one. It's like a magnetic workflow where you have a delegating agent make a plan to get to a particular result. It makes a plan, tries to carry out that plan based on the functionalities and tools that it has access to, gets a result from the first iteration, decides on if it's reached an acceptable solution, and if it hasn't, it makes another plan, tries to get another result until maybe a maximum number of tons or any other termination signal you've set has been reached, or it reaches an acceptable output for you, which is really sick. Last one would be durable agents. So these are really basically tacking on agentic workflows, just like the ones I mentioned above, to um, durable functions. So durable functions is sort of like a Microsoft solution, it's an Azure solution where you're able to run serverless, you're running a serverless application, but you're running it over a long-lived context. So serverless applications, normally you have those run for like a couple of minutes max. We're able to like run long-lived serverless applications through these durable functions. State is mostly stored in blob storage, mostly blobs. State is mostly stored in blobs in between calls. You're able to basically have processes where you run, stop, start based on signals, any startup signal, etc. And also, beautifully enough, you're able to do that with Microsoft Agent, tack that onto durable functions, and you have very long living agentic workflows. I do not have a demo for this, but I have left a URL to the Microsoft URL to this at the end of this. I think I do have a bit of time, so I would go through a few of the agents I've talked about, the ones I have demo for. If Let's see how far I get with that. Then. Oh, nice. This repository is available on the .NET GitHub as well. It should be on the QR code at the end of this. So just couple of nice little abstractions in there. Uh, is this big enough, or do you guys want me to expand it a bit more? Expand it. Do I know the command to expand on this? Oh no. Maybe just, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Structured output bits. Beautiful thing about this fella again is this very amazing API here, the run async API. It's a generic API, generic method, lets you give in any form of inputs, get your response out in specific data structure. Something I've noticed from experience, you try to give so much instructions as to also the shape of the data as well as the generic inputs. You're not going to get very nice results of it. Second thing, you try to create a specific agent or LLM that has different functionalities. For this particular thing, I've tried to have an agent be knowledgeable about countries' flag colors and also the what the code called again, ISO codes for countries. And then you go, oh, I need the flag colors for Portugal, and it tells you, oh, I only answer questions about Portugal because that was the instructions. I only answer questions about countries, and there's literally Portugal in the question. Then I need a flag about Portugal, and you can't answer that because you've basically given it three sort of like conflicting instructions, and that can happen very easily. And that's why we do the whole modular thing. Let's see this fella right here. Does it add context of what the schema is to your prompt? Yeah. Yeah, so basically for every single prompt, it adds, it realizes the shape of the schema, sends that along, and then it ensures that that's the response you get. So some fields might be null or not null, but that's literally the response you get. So basically, you could have an agent, and the only instruction is you are an expert in geography, and then you ask a question and your only schema output is the basically maybe country name, it's about the country. You don't need to specify what it needs to return, or maybe a movie expert and you go, oh, what are the best 10 movies IMDb? Then you get both rating, date of release, etc. You don't have to specify all that, but it tries to fill in all of the properties within whatever schema you've put in there. Let's go. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit. 1 second. So this is a very simple instruction. I tried going earlier on with very crazy long list of instructions on, just like I said earlier, you answer questions about this, you do this, then this is your very strict rules about how you're going to respond or what you're going to respond. And that went really bad because very simple questions made me feel like I was literally talking to a chatbot, not an LLM. That was like really sick. So one thing to consider whenever creating instructions for models like this is very specific, short, simple. An experience that does help might be different experience with when you experiment with it. Um, Second one are the agents with tools. I should have named this a bit better, to be fair, but I'll go with this instead. These are the agents are tools. There's like a very nifty factory static class that helps you create those. You're able to literally construct different agents. So you basically create different type of agents, and then you basically um, have an extension method that transforms them into tools that are basically appendable into a delegating agent. So you have maybe a delegating agent, say this is the delegating agent. Each of these are other agents that literally I've just created up within here. And I'm able to basically have them accessible to the root agent. Same way you create agent tools, to be fair, basically the contract description, name of what it does, basically helps give it context of what its capabilities are, how it does that. I've basically done this in an MVC project just to demonstrate that you can also use dependency injection in this. So you're able to work within context, whether it's a scope for each session or request, you're able to like modularize within context, and you can also integrate this within your application without having to be a standalone console product or whatnot. Something also nifty to note is this chat client agent. So under the Microsoft Agent framework, there are loads of implementations or concrete classes of the AI agent. That's the root class. One of them is the chat client agent. That's the one that has access to the run async generic method. It's really nifty because it enables you to do stuff like add a context factory where within each call you're able to generate context from your environment. So one of the use cases I've used it for is within each call for a particular user, generate context based on history, append that to the instruction. So you're basically able to append context both before and after the call to the instruction. So you're able to either gain context, add it to the instruction after the call, either find out what needs to be updated about the context you had. So those are like three different LM calls in the process between that. So basically it's like a whole lot of like nifty control about like context, which is like really nice. With the executors, this is basically just like a rule engine where you are able to have determine an input and an output format and basically orchestrate that. Let me see where that is. This is a very, very bulky fun. This is a very bulky API, the orchestration that goes into this. It's a whole lot of like switches with paths where this goes, where that goes. This is like the output input. It's a bit not fun to work with if I'm being very honest, but yeah, it's a very bulky API. And then the last one we've just spoken about are the agent orchestration, but this is like with the handoff. So basically, this is basically you determining the workflow part of this is a orchestrator agent or delegator agent. This has control and it has it's able to pass in context to the agents with location information and weather information, and these two agents can only send information back to the orchestrating agent, and the orchestrating agent can send information also to the translator agent. This basically sort of like maps out a pipeline as to information flow to arrive at a result. I think that should be the last one of them. Most of the abstractions and whatnot for creating the agents I have in this repository. They would be in the final slides after here. So if you do want access to that, they would be on here. Uh, apart from that, if you have any questions, very much welcome to them. Do we have questions? Yes, please. But yeah, they do have a Python library as well. Yeah, so it's both Python and .NET at the moment. I don't think they have a support for JavaScript or any other language. TypeScript. Oh, that's nice. I didn't know that actually. You could do rags with them. So the entire idea, you definitely could do rags with them. The entire idea is there's loads of functionalities that enable you to embed them within your application. So within any enterprise application, whatever you're trying to do. So when I've spoken about like the context earlier on, the context factory, that's basically like the rack thingy where you're able to gain one of the things you could do is before the request you're able to make the encoding and whatnot from your what's it called, your data storage for yeah, I forgot the term at the moment. Basically, embedded data.
Vectors.
And yeah, vectors. Basically, your vector database. You're able to like get that within call. So basically, you're not like orchestrating that. It's basically a factory that basically has context on how to do that. Append that to each call and then get the results back to you. So that's actually very nifty way of doing rags with that. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Functionality. Like, so you're setting up an agent with, I don't know, it might be JSON or YAML or something that has a set of instructions in it, maybe reads that in, rather than like doing it programmatically.
I don't believe it does at the moment. No, I think it's just programmatic at the moment. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
How much support are you going to get? So it's ML.NET.
So yeah, with Microsoft, it's a bit tricky. It's mostly about it depends on what they decide the company wants to focus on at the moment. To be honest, they've rock pulled on us a lot of times. So yeah, they have rock pulled on us a lot of times. So yeah, we can't really trust them. So but so far, they really seem invested in this as they have in a lot of other things. So yeah, it's we'll see as fate takes us. Yes, it is. It's in preview at the moment. You can download it off NuGet as well, but it's in preview at the moment. So that's the APIs and methods are always they're receiving like really constant changes at the moment. So it's really, really in preview, not just decorated in preview at the moment. Yeah.